I'm still a little afraid of it, but it's okay. All right, so now we're going to hear about other people's secrets and secret situations. You want to read about Stephen Michael Carr?
Gladly. Wow, folks. Stephen Michael Carr started telling stories when he was 5 and hasn't stopped. He has told stories on stage for The Moth, Double Edged Stories, We Still Like You, USA Today's Storytellers Project, and Louisville Fringe Fest, among other platforms. Stephen produces 2 storytelling shows locally, Tales from the Jukebox and Come Out Lou. Queer Kentucky recently published his essay, Slipknot Made Me Gay, in an issue on masculinity. By day, he is the Development and Operations Director for Ideas Lab.
That should say Unknown Project, so I'm just going to interject there.
This is what he wrote. And in the evening, you can often catch him running through Old Louisville with his beloved pit bulls, Mercy May Marlene and Kylie Evangeline Grace, DJing for Louisville Silent Disco, or enjoying a cold beverage at Old Louisville Brewery, the bar he owns, alongside his husband David and 4 other neighbors. Everybody, let's put our hands together for Stephen.
I'm entering my mogul era, can't you tell? Pants like these, you know. Did your family ever enslave people? That was one of the first questions that my new colleagues, Josh Miller and Hannah Drake, asked me on my first day of working for Unknown Project. Is anyone at all familiar with Unknown Project? Yes. Thank you. So, Unknown Project unearths the names and stories of enslaved Black people in America, and then honors those names and stories through art. We have public art installations, museum exhibits. Hannah wrote an original play last year with Randy Lachey. A lot of this is very free and open to the public, all in the name of telling accurate history, because our legislators sure as hell don't want us to tell accurate history. Right? And you know, art changes lives, right? And so this led to this question: did your family ever enslave people? Now, I was taken aback by this question because my family is a nice white Christian family, right? Of course, they would never enslave people. But if I was completely honest with myself, I really didn't know the answer to that question. So I did the only thing I knew to do, what any good gay Christian boy would do. I called my mother. I called my mom. And the thing that you need to know about my family, okay, is that we're from Bullitt County. And we're very like blue collar, right? Blue collar, bootstrap kind of people, all right? You would see us at church every Sunday. The day before, on Saturday, you could catch us in one of the family members' backyards holding either a Bud Light or a Miller Lite. We are either playing horseshoes or cornhole, right? And on any long weekend, you would catch us at the lake, right? Does that sound familiar to anybody? Yes. So, yes, you know my family, right? And one of the narratives of my family on my mother's side, right, is that we come from nothing and that we worked very hard for what we have. Because my mom and her siblings grew up very poor, right? And so that's like a story that we always tell ourselves. We come from nothing and we made something of ourselves. And it's something that my family, my mom in particular, is very proud of, right? So of course, I get her on the phone and I say, well, did our family ever enslave people? And I got the answer that I'm sure you expect, right? The one that I expected, which was, well, of course we never enslaved people. You had to have money to enslave people. And we come from nothing, Stephen, so we couldn't afford to own anybody. Exactly. And that was it. That was the answer to the question. That really didn't feel complete to me because there was no, there was no proof. There were no receipts, as the kids say, right? And I wanted, it's so easy just to give that excuse and not really dive into that, right? So I thought to myself, surely I am not the only white, blue-collar man from Shepherdsville, Kentucky who has ever asked this question ever before, right? There must be some kind of resource or something. So I started asking around to my friends and family, etc., just asking the question. And my friend Chris works for the Louisville Free Public Library. And he said, Stephen, do you have a library card? And I said, Chris, of course I have a library card. I'm not a heathen. And he said, well, if you have a library card, you can go to any branch of the library, and you can use the little code on the back of your card to log on to one of the computers, and you have access to like 15 different genealogical databases, including Ancestry.com for free. Did y'all know that? No. Yes. Support your public library, because libraries are dope, okay? And so I said, well, I did not know that. And he said, well, sign up for the hour with a librarian. Let me know when you do it. I'll scoop up that, and you can come to my branch of the library. I'll show you how to do it. Y'all, I went down a rabbit hole. Okay, 5 minutes into sitting in front of this computer, I found where my grandfather's grandfather lived, address and everything. All these family members I had never heard of before, buried in cemeteries that I'd never been to before. Birth records, death records, marriage certificates, everything. Right? It's all right there. And I knew that my goal, okay, was to keep going back, follow the paper trail on the computer till I got back to before 1865, right, which is whenever slavery was abolished in the Constitution, the 13th Amendment. And it was in that moment while I was sitting in front of that computer doing that work that I had kind of a dark epiphany. And that epiphany was that once I got past that barrier of 1865, I was no longer looking for birth records or death records. I was looking for property records. And I knew that in the back of my head when I sat down at that computer. Right? I knew that. But to sit there with all these documents on the screen splayed out in front of me, right, and just to see it, made it all really real, you know. And suddenly, this wasn't just an amusement or an interest. This was a question that I really needed the answer to. And in that hour at the library, in my family's paperwork that I was able to find, I found 9 people. And out of those 9 people, on paper, only one of them had their name recorded. And her name was Rachel. Now you can imagine all of the feelings, right, coursing through me as I'm realizing all of this. Anger, sadness, lots of stuff. But the biggest feeling that I felt was shame, right? That my family would have done such a thing. And for so long, right, we had this narrative that we never had any money, so of course this was not a thing that we would have participated in. And I'm very glad, right, that my new colleague, Hannah, was able to pull me aside and say, listen, Stephen, your shame is really real. Your feelings of that, right, they're really real. They're there. It's important to acknowledge them. But I want you to understand 2 things. 1, you personally did not do that to those people. The shame that you're feeling isn't yours, okay? The second thing she said is it's important to name that shame, but it's also important to let it go and not get caught up in it, because shame is the thing that keeps people hiding their grandparents' clan outfits in boxes in the attic. Shame is the thing that keeps people from releasing the names of enslaved people that are tucked in pages of their old Bibles, right? Shame keeps that all in the dark, and the truth is not meant to be in the dark, Stephen. It's meant to be brought out into the light. So bring it out into the light. Unknown Project has a website, unknownprojecttrail.com, and if you find information like what I found, in about 5 minutes you can upload it to our website, and we have a map of the United States with pin drops for every single person that we've been able to find through this research. It's been over 2,000 people since we started in 2020. And so a few weeks ago, I was able to go, like I said, just like that, I was able to upload Rachel's name, where she was from, the document that proved that she was a real person, that she existed. And now that is open and people can find it on the internet, right? And so I have this kind of dream in my head, right, that somewhere out there is Rachel's family. And I like to think that somebody from her family is looking for her. And if I could play just a small part in helping them find each other, that's nothing to be ashamed of. Thank you.
Wow.